Before there were names, before the continents settled or the oceans cooled, Earth was not the blue marble we now admire. It was chaos incarnate, a furnace cloaked in magma storms, where lightning forked across oceans of fire and gravity had not yet learned how to hold still. The skies were red, the ground was liquid, the days lasted 4 hours, and the sun hung low behind a haze of iron vapor. In this primal theater of noise and motion, a collision occurred. Not a gentle brush, but a cosmic shattering. A Mars-sized body, now lost to time, plunged into Earth with a force that unspooled the crust and sent molten rocks sailing into orbit. For a moment, there were no planets, just debris. Earth convulsed, its axis tilted, its insides spilled outward, and from that glowing wreckage, held together only by gravity's insistence, a sphere began to form. That sphere would become the moon. But it was no passive creation. The early moon spun wildly, glowing red-hot from internal friction, its surface boiling with impacts. It orbited much closer to Earth then, so near that it filled half the sky. Tides rose and fell not in meters, but in mountains. The Earth's molten skin sloshed with lunar pull, and days lengthened by the second as the moon's presence slowed Earth's spin. Back then, the moon was a partner in planetary reshaping. It stabilized Earth's wobble, anchoring its chaotic spin and allowing weather to organize, oceans to settle, climates to breathe. The very balance that would later allow life to form was born not from design, but from aftermath. From violence, the moon's surface began to change. The molten glow dimmed. Impacts left lasting scars. Each crater a memory, each mare, a dark sea of cooled basalt where asteroid trauma bled into geography. It took hundreds of millions of years, but the moon eventually quieted. Its crust cooled, its orbit widened, but it never forgot. Every blemish, every impact was preserved. Unlike Earth, which erodes its past with wind and water, the moon holds still. It remembers everything. And through this silence, something else began: balance. The moon became tidally locked to Earth, always showing the same face. A silver sentinel staring endlessly in one direction. On Earth, the skies began to change. The sun rose and set in more stable rhythm. The tides, though massive, gained predictability. And deep in the seas, single-celled life blinked into being, dancing to the rhythm of a moon it would never understand. In that long night sky, the moon loomed large, not yet the distant pearl we know, but a close and searing companion. Its glow reflected the violence of its birth. More orange than white, more furnace than lantern. The early sky was filled with dust. Earth and moon still shared a halo of particles and vapor. But even in this haze, a pattern began. Orbit tilt returned. The beginning of time as we measure it. Eons passed like slow breaths. The Earth spun, cooled, breathed. The moon drifted farther, centimeter by centimeter, year by quiet year. Its glow softened, its motion settled. The dance between planet and satellite matured into something resembling permanence. A partnership, a gravitational handshake older than any life that would ever observe it. And when the first shallow oceans formed, when raindrops sizzled on still warm stone, the moon's gravity was already guiding them, pulling tides with silent fingers. Even before the first cell divided, the moon was there, shaping the world below not with force, but with rhythm, an invisible metronome for the unfolding story of life. Billions of years ago, this silver sphere had no name, no myths, no watchers. It simply was, a byproduct of fire and ruin, held aloft in a sky still raw with creation. But its presence, its constancy, would become the single most reliable sight in the entire human story. Long before eyes evolved to see it, the moon hung above, quiet, watching, waiting. Its scars were set like frozen wrinkles across time. Its orbit widened like a breath drawn in too slowly to be noticed. And through it all, it never once looked away. In the stillness of space, born from fire and destined to observe, the moon became the most ancient mirror of Earth, not just of its surface, but of its passage through time. The camera pans wide, and the Earth cools in the foreground. Above it, suspended in the black, still glowing faintly from its birth, the moon continues its long, lonely drift. And now, far from that violent origin, it drifts into a new era, one of oceans, of fossils, of rhythm, one where tides and time begin to entwine. Time is not kept by clocks, it is carved by cycles, by the turning of planets, the swing of moons, the rise and fall of seas. And if Earth is a canvas, then the moon has been its brush, etching time not with ink, but with motion. Long after the fires cooled and the first continents began to drift apart like forgotten promises, the moon's influence deepened. Its orbit, though widening, remained a gravitational tether. Each rise and fall of the tide became a heartbeat, not of water, but of rhythm. Early Earth had no calendar, no hours, but it had the moon. And every living thing, from the tiniest photosynthetic cell in the sea to the earliest multicellular life, began responding to its gentle pull, not just physically, but biologically. Some plankton learned to ascend with the tides and retreat with the stars. Coral learned to bloom in precise sync with full moons. Evolution began to hum to a lunar tune. And so, time took on texture, not a ticking sound, but a cadence felt in bones and waves. As life evolved, so too did awareness. Reptiles crawled onto beaches made fertile by tidal churn. Amphibians laid eggs where the water reached highest. The moon did not speak, but it directed. It did not interfere, but it shaped possibility. Its distance determined the tides. Its tilt influenced seasons. Its quiet pull became a sculptor of landscapes, a whisperer of destinies. Then came the mammals, the primates, and eventually us. Early humans did not record the moon. They worshipped it. It was a god, a guardian, a glowing reminder that night was not empty. It marked seasons for planting, migrations for hunting, moments for birth and death. Across deserts and islands, across jungles and ice fields, the moon was the one constant. Civilizations would rise and vanish, but that pale face remained, unblinking, unchanged. It was by moonlight that ancient calendars were etched into stone. Moon phases guided fishermen, midwives, and astronomers alike. The first myths spoke of its changing shape as transformations of gods and spirits. The moon was not simply a celestial object. It was the stage upon which early human consciousness projected meaning, rhythm, and time. And still, its influence was not only cultural, it remained physical. Even today, every time a wave rolls across a shore, it carries the moon's signature. Each gravitational tug slightly slows Earth's rotation. Our days lengthen by fractions of a second every century, drawn out by the moon's quiet breaking. It is a dance of friction and grace. Satellite measurements now confirm what mythology suspected. The moon and Earth are intertwined in a gravitational feedback loop so delicate that a single shift in lunar distance alters our climate's long-term rhythm. Ice ages and interglacials, deep freeze and warming, all entangled with the lunar cycle. It is a cosmic metronome hiding in plain sight. But it does not just shape us. It watches every radio wave, every satellite, every message we've ever sent past Earth has passed near or beneath the moon's orbit. It is the unacknowledged witness to our entire recorded history. It was there when the first fires were lit, when the pyramids rose, when we went to war, when we wrote poetry, and when, at last, we reached for it. And yet, for all our science and symbolism, we often forget what the moon is: a fossil in the sky, a preserved relic from the birth of the solar system. Unlike Earth, Its surface has no weather, no erosion, no oceans to erase history. It is, in many ways, the memory we never lost. When the Apollo missions landed, they didn't just plant a flag. They touched a mirror older than civilization itself. The dust they kicked still holds their footprints, undisturbed, because on the moon, there is no wind to forgive our trespass. Today, we use satellites to monitor tides with stunning precision. We chart lunar eclipses down to the second. We predict every supermoon and blood moon years in advance. But behind the data, the awe remains. A full moon still silences crowds, still casts silver light on sleeping forests and restless seas, still reminds us that we are spinning, orbiting, moving together. The moon has pulled Earth's oceans for billions of years, and now, in return, it pulls our memory. It tugs on the ancient parts of our biology that remember tides before words. It shapes the language of nature, the blooming of certain flowers, the spawning of sea turtles, the synchronized dance of fireflies, all responding to its invisible call. As we stare upward from cities glowing with artificial light, we often forget that this moonlight is ancient. Not metaphorically, literally. Light from the moon is sunlight, bounced back from 240,000 miles away. What you see tonight left the moon 1.3 seconds ago. Every glance is a message in delay. But look longer, and the story becomes timeless. The moon is still drifting away, roughly 3.8 centimeters a year. Slowly, quietly, it is leaving us, not in betrayal, but in the continuation of the same gravitational dance it's always known. One day, millions of years from now, Earth's days will stretch so long that tides will stall. The moon will be smaller in the sky. Eclipses will fade into memory. But for now, the rhythm remains. For now, the tides still breathe. And in that slow, lunar exhale we live. The moon became more than rock and reflection. It became a witness. As human civilization sprouted across continents, its pale gaze never wavered. Time passed differently beneath it. In Mesopotamia, the Sumerians carved its cycle into clay tablets, marking the first lunar calendars. In Mesoamerica, the Maya aligned temples to its rhythm. In Egypt, in China, in Greece, each empire looked upward and found meaning in its light. It was the moon that guided the first navigators across ocean voids. It was the moon that dictated planting, hunting, resting. Its phases were stitched into folklore, myth, and monarchy. To some it was a goddess, to others a messenger, always distant, yet always present. Through floods and famines, through eclipses and omens, it hovered in stillness as human fate unfolded beneath. And then came lenses. In 1609, Galileo turned his telescope to the moon and shattered the illusion of perfection. Craters, ridges, plains of basalt, a surface shaped not by gods, but by impact. The moon had been scarred long before humanity was born. And in those scars, we saw ourselves, fragile, weathered, surviving. Centuries passed, empires burned, borders shifted, and revolutions rewrote history. But the moon remained untouched. Poets wrote of its solitude. Scientists tracked its orbit with obsessive precision. And every night, no matter where war raged or peace reigned, it drifted overhead, watching. In 1969, that changed. A single boot pressed into its dust. And in that moment, the moon became not just an object of reverence, but a place, a landscape, a memory etched into human consciousness. We had touched the ancient watcher, and it had touched us. But even after Apollo's triumph, we didn't stay. The moon returned to silence. The footprints faded, flags bleached white in radiation. It became a memory again. Yet it had seen everything. Mushroom clouds bloom over cities, satellites spark in its orbit, nations rise with dreams of the stars. And through it all, it drifted, a sentinel without judgment, a globe suspended in darkness. It never turned its face, never revealed its far side willingly, as if keeping secrets meant for no one. Above every battlefield, every birth, every last breath taken beneath its glow, the moon remained, the watcher above all wars. And now, we study it with new instruments, LiDAR scans, seismographs, infrared arrays, as if trying to ask it something, as if we hope it will answer. Yet it says nothing, offers no hint of what it remembers, no archive of what it has seen. But some believe it's not silence. Some believe it's patience, because every crater, every mineral deposit, every electromagnetic pulse from its core seems too aligned, too perfectly tuned, as if built or placed. And though we claim to know its density, its trajectory, even its drift, there remains one thing no model can explain. Why, out of all the orbits in our system, does it face us always? One side, one gaze, unblinking. Perhaps the moon isn't just a mirror of Earth's past. Perhaps it's a lens for something watching still. It's hard to picture the moon leaving us. But science, for all its quiet certainty, does not flinch at inevitability. It only observes. And what it observes is drift, a quiet, relentless outward pull, 3.8 centimeters per year, like a farewell stretched thin across eons. Too slow to feel, too certain to deny. In vast simulations stitched from satellite data and laser reflectors left on the lunar surface, astronomers model the coming millennia. They watch as the moon, our ancient companion, slides gently away from us, orbit widening like a breath held too long. And with it, Earth begins to change. Subtle at first, tides grow softer, coastal rhythms lose their pulse. The gentle lunar tug that once stirred the oceans like a metronome starts to falter. The moon has always been more than a distant object. It stabilizes our axis, keeps our seasons consistent, tempers the wild wobble that would otherwise throw Earth into climatic chaos. But the further it drifts, the looser that balance becomes. The tilt begins to wander. Weather grows erratic. Rainfall patterns fracture. The equator heats while the poles collapse. Not in a sudden apocalyptic rupture, but in the slow erosion of what we once thought permanent. Eclipses, those sacred alignments of light and shadow, cease to occur. The perfect celestial dance loses its rhythm. The moon grows smaller in our skies. Its arc no longer able to blot the sun. Rituals end. Festivals fade. Ancient predictions break. And still it drifts. There is a point, millions of years from now, where two futures diverge. In one, the moon breaks free, not cataclysmically, but calmly, a final uncoiling of gravitational tether. It becomes an independent traveler, orbiting the sun alone. Earth becomes just another planet without a moon. The tides fall silent. The night grows empty. And whatever civilization endures to witness that moment, they will be the last to see a sky that once sang in reflection. In the other future, less likely, more poetic, the drift reverses. Some cosmic fluctuation or stellar event disturbs the balance. The moon, once loosened, begins a long return, a slow inward spiral, not unlike the final moments of a dance. But such a return is not graceful. It ends in destruction. Lunar gravity would swell tides into mountains. Its mass would tear at Earth's crust. And then, in its final orbit, it would break apart, raining fire, reforming as rings, or falling whole in a death embrace that redefines the surface below. Yet these futures lie so far ahead that they outlive not only our species, but perhaps the sun itself. What matters more is what the moon becomes in the meantime. It becomes memory. Already, it carries the echoes of us. The boot prints from 1969, still perfectly preserved in dust untouched by wind or time. The metal husks of landers, scattered like fossils, flags bleached white, radiation detectors, family photos left behind by astronauts, ashes of loved ones. It is a graveyard, a museum, a silent record etched in regolith. The moon knows our story. It has seen our origin, watched us crawl from oceans, build pyramids, launch fire into the void. It has blinked above both birth and extinction. It has seen firebombs and lullabies, lovers and lunatics. And as Earth changes, as ice caps melt, cities vanish, new ones rise, the moon watches on unblinking. One day, long after we're gone, some other intelligence may find it. Not Earth, not Mars, but the moon, floating with traces of a species that once dreamed upward. Perhaps they'll decipher our instruments, see our markings, wonder why we carved symbols into silence and left them facing space. Or perhaps no one will come. Perhaps the moon will simply drift on, a stone ghost in the dark. But even then, even in silence, it will carry us. Our pulse, our questions, our tiny, impossible echo of life. And above whatever remains of Earth, if anything remains at all, the moon will still pass overhead, unmoving, unfeeling, and unforgettable. The moon drifts, but it never forgets. Its shadow will always fall across memory. And in that shadow, we remain,